Good morning and welcome, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on a Wednesday. Happy Hump Day. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. You need to go out there today. We're not going to play it for you, but a great interview with Bubba Horowitz. And I'm just telling you right now, it's another record. Don't worry. Don't worry. You haven't missed anything. Even Bubba Horowitz now, he's saying $2,500 gold by August, which I'm wondering how high it's going to be after August. But I'll make it real simple. Silver, by the way, did it. It is broken out here, up another dollar. Silver just said, forget about $26. It just went right to 27. Well, we're at 26.92 right now on silver. We're going to hit $30 silver this year. Heck, you know, I thought it could hit $30 last year, but here it comes this year. We've been watching it. We've been telling you silver looking poised to join gold, right? It's the little brother, right? Gold's the responsible older brother. And sometimes silver, Eddie, he just takes his own little path on the way home. But the dinner bell's ringing. Here he comes. He's running up higher. We got a great show lined up for everybody today. I don't know if you saw gasoline in Phoenix this morning. Did you see it? Up 30 cents a gallon overnight. $4.29. We're probably going to see gas approach $5 here in the Valley of the Sun. Everywhere else, places like Colorado, the cheap gas places, don't be surprised if you get close to $4 gasoline by May in drive season. Jason, as oil inventories are at all-time lows, near all-time lows. Unfortunately, the levels of gas, unleaded gas, levels of diesel, same thing, jet fuel, also at historic lows. And of course, the strategic oil reserve, they pretty much drained that thing as well. And then Ukraine hit another Russian refinery. Now we're getting mad at Ukraine for hitting refineries in Russia because, wait a minute, okay, that's going to make everything cost more here.
Everything costs more, and then Joe and I were talking about a little bit of how it sounds, seems a little quiet, right? Things are getting more and more expensive. The inflation's getting hotter and hotter, and it seems a little quiet, right? It doesn't seem like there's as much emergency as there should be strewn across the news, but it makes sense that it's quiet, Joe. When things are getting astronomically expensive, what's the cheapest thing to do? Go home and watch television with the family and cook at home. I mean, not a lot of talking if you're not going out, and that's what a lot of families are going to be doing. I don't think Colorado and maybe even Arizona are really indicative of the rest of the country. I know Colorado still is a growing area, and I don't know if that's going to change, but the rest of the country, I mean, I'm not there, but I'm seeing stuff where people just they don't have it, they can't spend it, and they're worried about where they're going to spend the next one.
Well, bird flu is back. The largest egg producer in the country shutting down. I want to say, I think it's their largest facility. It's in Texas with bird flu. Somehow now, bird flu has now gotten into the cows. Yeah, so now a bunch of dairy farms being shut down, and even somebody tested positive for bird flu that he got from a cow. I don't know. It's just, again, all of these things, I don't know where inflation's going, but Bubba Horowitz is kind of in our camp. Not really fascinating. He's talking about they need to be raising rates, not lowering rates. He said they may lower them because of the election and trying to, he was hinting that maybe they're going to try to, make it better, I would assume for Biden by lowering rates, but he's talking about a 10-year note above 6%, which we've been talking about all of a sudden this massive increase in government debt. That is way above what people are talking about and what that would do to the deficit. Already, we heard from Bank of America, who says, listen, that's going to be $40 trillion by next summer. And it's going to have to do with the amount of interest is going to be becoming overwhelming, that by the end of this year, we'll be paying $1.6 trillion. By the end of next year, over $2 trillion. And that's with the 10-year note around 4.4, which, by the way, that's what the 10-year note is now. Every other auction that we have, a 1-year note, a 2-year note, a 5-year note, a 7-year note, a 30-year note, all higher than all of them, but I think the 30-year are above 5. So, Jason, we could really be in this. I think we're just setting ourselves up. Inflation wasn't fixed. They didn't fix it. They're not going to admit it. They're going to hide behind crappy data that they use. But the bottom line is gold and silver are the place to be without a shadow of a doubt. We're going to see much, much higher prices. I'll say it this way. If you want to pay more, wait. That's it. There's got to be a pullback here somewhere. It's got to pull back. But you know what? Even if it pulls back $50, I don't think we're going to see prices come down. And when you've got experts out there talking about, hey, it's going to be $2,500 by August. I mean, what would a $20 gold piece be at $2,500 gold? $2,800, $2,900? Don't wait. You're going to just pay more. Get in here. They've screwed this thing up from day one, and they've known it, and they're just trying to avoid a depression with inflation. 800-951-0592. Just an update now. 2 poultry plants now reporting bird flu. 5 dairy facilities reporting the same as well. Just another example of inflation now, just coming at us in every direction. A quick look in at the markets. After a few down days here, the Dow's up a little bit, up about 80 points. The S&P's up 20. The Nasdaq's up 90. The 10-year note, 440. It's been between 439 and 441 all day. Crude oil up again, up another 62 cents, just below $86. Unleaded gas is higher. Diesel higher. When we look at gold's up 23. I know, $2,283. Silver's up $1. Well, $1.01 right now, 26.92. And as we've dubbed this the year of chaos. I'll just say this. Go out to All American Gold. Listen to Bubba Hortz. Listen to what he has to say. Talking about Wall Street. Hey, Wall Street, right? It's overpriced. It's overvalued. But, hey, it's still there. It is what it is, right? The Fed not allowing for true price discovery. Let's face it, if the Fed was being honest, rates would be already at 6% or higher, but they're not. They don't want price discovery to happen. He doesn't know when, but he's saying, hey, when it happens, when it cracks, when it breaks, be ready for a 50 to 70% downside. Now, I don't know. That sounds logical to me, right? I go back to the last crash, and that's typically what we see. Don't be in that position. Get diversified. You know what? Check out. We've been talking about them for a couple of years now. Why refi is a great place to go. You're going to get up to 10.25% fixed rates of return, not correlated to Wall Street. So I don't think Wall Street goes ballistic from here. I think the ballistic move kind of already happened. Can it go a little higher from here? Yes. But when it breaks, it's going to break. It's going to be quick. Get yourself diversified ahead of time. something that's not correlated to Wall Street, not correlated to the Fed. It doesn't care about inflation. It doesn't care about any of that stuff. And you won't have to face the downside. Check them out, investyrefy.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them, 888-Y-REFI-24. It's Jobs Week this week. So we got ADP this morning. This is another number. Jason, this cannot, I think rates actually have to go up, not down. This is why gold's running. Listen, gold is not fooled here. 184,000 jobs, according to ADP. That's the highest number they've had going back to July of last year. But when we look inside, because, it really doesn't matter, 100,000, 200,000. Really what's important in this number, wages. What is going on in wages? And once again, ADP, Job Changers saw wage growth jump 10% year over year. And Jason, that just tells you inflation isn't going down. It's only going to go higher. I mean, look at California, right? Starting the other day, got to pay $20 an hour. I mean, wage inflation, according to ADP, is now picking up steam once again. This is how many more things? Gas prices picking up steam. Airline prices picking up steam. Now we got eggs and dairy prices picking up steam. All of these things are saying that inflation is gathering momentum and not the, oh my gosh, we're getting ready to cut rates.
Not to mention that credit card payments and credit card debt is at all-time highs. There's any kind of way you can think of that money's coming out of your wallet is flying out, Joe. It's on every side. Everywhere you go, it's every single thing, and that's what inflation is. Inflation doesn't typically just pick out one or two items unless it's a specific event for that industry. Inflation is too much printed money, not enough supplies for the demand. Joe and I were talking before the show. It's like the demand for stuff in a growing population, which it is still growing, at least at this point, means that more stuff needs to be made and bought and shipped and all that stuff. And then it seems like worldwide everything is congesting. Yeah, suddenly there's bird flu, right? That's a congestion in eggs. The supply is down. So how could anything get cheaper in this environment? And this is why, look, if you don't have it, you don't have it. Work as hard as you can and get those bills paid. But there's one thing going down. There's one thing going down right now. It's dollar value, currency value. You should not have it sitting in the bank. You should not have it sitting under your mattress at this moment in time. It just for an investment standpoint only. Get out of the cash quick until the inflation actually slows. It's not going to stop. It was baked into the cake, right, Joe? We're supposed to have it. Right. We have a central bank.
Listen, we haven't even seen the effects yet of Baltimore. The Panama Canal is an absolute mess. What's going on shipping in the Middle East is an absolute mess. It really is something that I don't see. Excuse me. Again, I don't see it going anywhere. I just don't know what they possibly could be seeing. This is going back to like 2020 when they were saying inflation's just transitory. They're just being naive. But Jason and I had a long talk this morning, and I think this is probably the reality. The Fed knows, man, if we fight inflation, it's going to cause a depression. We don't want to cause a depression. So we're going to have to allow for inflation. But the problem is the inflation will cause the depression, right? As Jason was talking about, everybody, reports everywhere about the amount of people raiding their 401ks, credit cards, the amount of people that have at least one credit card maxed out at record highs. The other thing, this report from Moody's talking about dormant office towers surging to the highest point going all the way back to 1979. And they're now saying that office tower vacancies have hit 20%. That's insane, right? 1 in 5 office buildings is empty, according to Moody's, and they're saying that the effects on the banks have yet to be even felt yet in a just, Jason, this is just this horrible storm that they have put us in, and the endless money printing has finally come home to roost. You can see it in the bond markets. I mean, February gold. February 14th, so what, 6 weeks ago, gold was $2,004, right? Where gold's up $24 now, $22.85. I mean, we're $15 away from gold going up $300 in 6 weeks. And why? Because the narrative that they were telling us 6 weeks ago is proving out to be incorrect once again, Jason, right? And gold knows it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's something else Joe and I were talking about this morning before the show, is that it seems to me that, you know, here's a name that Joe and I don't talk about because the guy's just wrong, but he's not wrong because he's looking at information wrong. He just, I think Harry Dent, who's been talking about recession and depression and the prices of things going down, he comes from a place of normal market, non-controlled markets. What he's seeing is, yes, the ebb and flows of markets. We should absolutely have a massive pullback. We should have had a massive pullback in 2009. Okay? What he ceases to see is that it is a corrupt, controlled system that will not allow a depression. Let's look at, 1913, the Fed got its power. In 1933, we were in the middle of this massive depression. And everyone begged for the Fed to really take over at that point, and World War II came in, and now we're stuck with this bank. What depression have we had since then? Well, we had the 2008 disaster, right? And what did they do? They printed $29 trillion secretly that they didn't want to tell anybody just to get the 2% inflation. So the Fed will do, or the moneyed powers will do anything they can to keep from a depression from happening, because that's essentially what gave them their power to begin with, is, hey, we stop that. And so you see weird happenings in the world. The Nord Stream pipeline, remember that one, Joe? That's a major constriction of energy. And they're constricting supplies of everything. And it's like, okay, well, the ship had a malfunction, just happened to hit the Baltimore Bridge, and there just happened to be a coronavirus that just, shut down the whole world, and the Los Angeles harbors were filled full of ships. There just happened to be bird flu here, and this thing there, and that thing there, and warehouses and food manufacturing burning to the ground, planes hitting things, and wheels falling off airplanes. I mean, it's just happening now. Right, Joe? And it's these things create inflation, less ability to get goods. I told Joe that, this much darker the discussions than we have on the air here. I was like, really, what they're telling us is that the poor are going to get poorer, the rich, the massively rich, are going to get richer in this thing, lords and peasants. And they're telling you, well, we're going to stop that depression. At least you'll be able to eat. That's what it looks like, Joe. It looks that bad that they want to inflate this thing so hard to avoid a massive depression that probably is maybe 5 decades overdue, maybe, Joe.
Well, we've that big earthquake in Taiwan. Taiwan Semi has evacuated all of their plants. They make the vast majority of those high-end chips for NVIDIA and Apple. Barclays is saying that production halts are going to threaten. They're saying that these high-end chips need 24/7 seamless operations in a vacuum state for weeks, and that this halt here, as they're trying to figure out if there's been any damage to these plants, that's just another factor, right? And all of a sudden, this seems like every little thing that happens, right, is, oh my gosh, right? Everything's a disaster, right? There's no excess supply of anything, and the second something goes, now we'll watch this play. I don't know. Bloomberg is saying that some staff was beginning to return to the evacuated sites, but they said that the staff was examining the impacts. We don't have details yet other than they have stopped production, which normally means, according to Barclays, they may have to go a couple of weeks before they can restart production. But it's early, but just something else, just another thing to throw out there, right?
Less stuff and higher prices. Less stuff, higher prices. You know, it's we've been talking about this since COVID. It's, you know, every year has been a worse year in a lot of ways. You know, and I think people, they try to ignore this. You go about your life, and that's fine. But as head of household, if you're the one that's taking care of your household financially, you really should have an eye on this stuff, and you should be making good decisions. And I like Glenn Beck. You know, it seems like a massive problem that's just way over your head. It's like, oh, I'm stuck here. I can't do anything about it. And Glenn Beck talks about prepping. And he says one thing. It's very simple. He's like, look, you don't have to have an entire, pantry full of 10 years of food supply. You simply, when you go to the grocery store, you're buying a can of whatever you normally eat, buy one more can. You know, Joe, you don't have to buy $20,000 in gold today if you can't afford it. Buy one roll of silver today. Buy one thing at a time. It's a habit that you form, because if you're listening to any of this, if any of this stuff makes sense to you, and you haven't bought or you have not bought enough gold and silver, there's nothing more flashing louder than today, Joe, that you need to get in now.
Patriot Radio News Hour. We're going to help you do that when we return. 800-951-0592. I got some of a special left this morning. $5 Liberties. Right now, they're $650. Got them on sale this morning, 1 through 19 at $640. 20 or more at $635. I've only got 50 left. We had 100 this morning. I've got 50 $5 Liberties available at that price. Again, I know it's like, gosh, well, man, that's a lot. But it's only going to be more. I mean, we talked about a $20 gold piece. You know, like $2,500 gold, you're going to be $2,800, $2,900 for a $20 gold piece. A $5 Liberty, you're probably talking, I don't know, $750, something like that. Why pay that? Pay $640. Heck, if you can afford it, pay $635. And then on the 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles, I don't know how much longer they're going to be below $300. A lot of the places out there online, they're already over $300. 1 through 49 at $285. If you buy 50 or more, $280 at 800-951-0592. So two great plays in the fractional gold market. The quarter ounce pre-1933 and really pre-1908 to the 1866 to 1907 $5 Liberties. $640. Buy 20 or more. $635. I've only got 50 left. And then the 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles, on, let's say, $5 at $285. If you buy 50 or more, we'll take them down to $280 at 800-951-0592. Right now, gold now $2,286. TV gold, they're on the June contract on TV. That's over $2,300. $2,308 right now. All other gold contracts well into the 23. February gold contract right now almost at $2,400. Silver, the only contract below 27 is the one right now, $2,687. March silver already above $28. So March of 2025 already above $28. And Jason, again, I think we're going to see much, much higher gold and silver prices because just look at what we're talking about. Everything that we're talking about is screaming inflation. At the same time, the Fed knows we've got a problem. They're having a hard time funding all of this debt. They were hoping beyond hope that this would magically go away. Jason, there's no magic here. Once again, the Fed is in a box. Damned if they do, damned if they don't. And it sounds like they're going with, well, we're just not gonna, right? We're not gonna fight the inflation. We'll just let all these prices run wild, try to avoid another Great Depression. I think because that's what they feel. They're not going to say this, but that's my feeling. They're trying to avoid another Great Depression. They're trying to avoid, Bubba Horowitz saying, hey, don't be shocked if Wall Street falls 70%, 50 to 70%. That's what they're trying to avoid.
And I think it was last year I mentioned, maybe it was even 2022, but I mentioned, Joe, to you that we may see a situation where you have higher or rising interest rates with printing. And, for you, you've been doing this so long, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, that's just counter of what you're supposed to do. But if Great Depressionary pressures are coming, if that's what was actually happening to us in 2008, I don't people remember the fear that the markets were having, the people were having about what, the end of capitalism. I heard, you hear that statement thrown around, in The Big Short. They kind of captured that feeling back then, and they printed $29 trillion eventually by 2010, and gave it out to countries. They gave it to Japan. They gave it to Germany. They gave it to the biggest bank, Citibank and Wells Fargo, and everybody got the big money. And we always wonder why with all that money, why with the $5.5 trillion that they actually admitted to, why wasn't there a lot more inflation? And now it's starting to look like, Joe, well, they avoided depression. Okay, and that didn't fix the problem. They printed $29 trillion, gave that out all over the place to fix everybody for just a short time. And I think they just, the players at the big boy table, they said, look, you got 10, 15 years to get your house in order if you want to survive what's coming. And Agenda 2030, you hear that thing, that term flying around. And it makes you wonder. It's like, they're playing chess. The average American is playing checkers. We don't know what's going to happen. But if you look at the tea leaves long enough, you really look at it long enough, it sure looks like, Joe, that's what they want to do. That inflation is so bad because they want it to be bad. Because the other option is a depression, and the Fed will get blamed. I think with a depression as bad as the one in 1933, 1929. If it's worse than that one, or if that's what they're trying to avoid, I think the Fed actually gets some fingers pointed at them. I don't know if there's a big enough emergency to cover that one up, Joe. So inflate your way out of it.
Well, and again, this is the hard part, because it does look like we finally hit, okay, how much debt is going to be too much debt? And it appears that we're kind of hitting that, right? That all of a sudden now, all the borrowing, all the spending, the bill is due, and the Fed's funds rate's only 5 to 5.25 to 5.5. If you take out the last 15, 16 years and throw it in the garbage, that would not be considered high. Right? That would be considered kind of normal, maybe a little bit low, but normal. Normal. We've got a 10-year note at 4.4%, and they're saying, oh, my gosh, you know what it's going to cost the government to fund that kind of levels? And this is the scary part. Now, Bubba Horowitz is saying the 10-year note's going to go to 6. I don't know if that is true, and that the funding problem is here. This game won't last that long, because what the markets are going to say is you can't inflate out this time. You can try, and that's what they're doing. They're trying, but this thing is going to end, and oh, by the way, when it ends, the ability for you to inflate out of it is going to be taken away. And again, I'm just looking at debt levels here. The CBO, which I tell you, don't even listen to them because they're not allowed to really do anything. When they came out to scare everybody, and then the very next day, Bank of America said, hey, listen, they're warning, that's not the reality. It's much worse than even what they're saying. that really has definitely shaken up the market, hasn't it? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. If you're looking for some $5 liberties, do it quickly. That we are running out here. They're $640, 20 or more, $635. And then don't forget the 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles, 1 through 49, $285. 50 or more, $280. Again, I don't even know how. It won't be long. They won't be below $300 much longer. 800-951-0592. One of the next driving force for gold, I think very quickly here at the next Fed meeting, we are going to hear about the slowing of quantitative tightening to try to keep interest rates at least somewhat under control. There's a very good possibility before this year is over that supplementary, that leverage ratio rule will be suspended again. And that will just say, okay, banks, all you big banks, just buy treasuries because we've got to, pretend that the funding problem isn't going to get worse. So I think that's another huge possibility. Of course, remember, that was one of the rules they put in place that was supposed to protect us from another banking crisis, right? And Jason, I see both of those things happening.
Yeah, the supplementary leverage ratio rule was in place from March 2020 to March of 2021. And Jamie Dimon almost begged the Fed to just leave it in place. And I think the Fed was testing, how is this going to work if we just let the banks buy as much treasuries as they want. And why would that work in this situation? If the banks are suffering and they're having troubles, it works because the government has an insatiable appetite to continue borrowing to pay their bills. And the government doesn't want to be, nobody in today's government wants to be in the Congress, or they want to be the president that resides over the bankruptcy of the government. So how do you prevent it or kick this can down the road? You let the big banks start borrowing as many treasuries. When you open up the supplementary leverage ratio rule, which was open for 1 year, you let them get back in there. You don't have any timetable on it. It used to be a central bank used to have a 20-year charter. Well, there won't be no 1 year rule on this one. It'll just open it up. And once they start just loaning money to the government, the banks are going to be so happy for a while because all that interest is going to get paid.
They're going to buy the short end. They're going to buy the short end. They're going to buy the 1 year, the 2 years, and they're going to get 5+%, to loan to the government. And when you look at these banks, they're like, yeah, I'd rather do that. I don't want to loan anybody any money on a house. I definitely don't want to loan anybody any money on commercial office real estate, right? And why not? Hey, what a better deal for us. I think this is going to be, again, all of these things are going to play out here. What happens, though, is that lasts. You get a little bit of juice from that, right? You get a little bit of juice from that.
A little bit.
But when the juice is gone, then what? And that's the danger of things. And, of course, it looks as if we're going to see a huge jump in debt year over year, not just federally. We're here. Oh, look at how many cities and states now are all crying about we're out of money. Think about what gold did. 6 weeks, we went from $2,000 to $2,300. Well, what happened to 21 and 2,200? It just went right by them. Silver finally broke out. What happened to 27? Well, we just went right through 26, and I'm probably going to go right through 27 with no stopping. This is the same thing that's going to happen to the federal debt. Well, we're at $2 trillion. Well, all of a sudden, it's going to be $4 trillion. You're like, well, what happened? What happened to $3 trillion? Well, that's gone. And then it's going to be $5 trillion. What happened to $4 trillion? Well, forget it. I mean, it's going to make a huge jump, according to Bank of America. And, Jason, I think this is what you're really seeing play out here. When we're seeing what's going on in the gold markets, and now little brother silver's coming along, people are starting to really wake up to, okay, how much time do we have? The CBO even they admitted a crisis in the debt market can be anywhere from 2025 to 2030. And Jason, I mean, that's now. I mean, it's 2024. So they're saying, hey, pretty much, starting pretty much right now, we could have a crisis at any moment.
Doesn't it seem like there's many crises always popping up everywhere anyways? So what kind of crisis are they talking about? How big is that going to get, right? And, I think Bubba Horowitz's August prediction is pretty good. I agree with a lot of what Joe was telling me about that video that you could watch right there at allamericangold.com. Go watch it. And I haven't seen it yet, but I'm going to go watch it. And it could be, Joe, I mean, I know that the business cycle runs a different calendar, but we're just ending quarter one of 2024, and look at the price momentum of gold. If gold finally subsides here in the next couple of weeks or so, I get the feeling that a little bit more profit taking on the markets in June as quarter two is ending, and it's going to go into gold as everyone's waiting for the Fed, which won't drop the rates. I think they'll go the same. And I'm thinking you might start seeing a pump and dump, hey, we're going to put everything we got into the markets, but when we can profit take, we're going to put it in gold. Very likely it might be what we're looking at right now. It doesn't take a lot of money from those markets, does it, Joe, to move gold?
And Bubba Horowitz made some very strong comments about the paper gold and silver markets, saying he doesn't trust them, saying that they don't have the gold, they don't have the silver, and the need to own physical. And these are just ominous warnings, right? And we've been telling you about the silver supply. We know that the squeeze is coming. Gold it's no different there, and it really is the calm before the storm. And we're talking about all these little things, but everyone's kind of been like, well, it's okay because, the Dow's still 39,000. So it's, people are almost like they're sleepwalking into all of this. And one day, I just have that feeling when the dam finally breaks, it's going to be an avalanche, and it's going to happen really quickly. So hopefully you can prepare before that dam breaks. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment on a Wednesday coming up. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason wrapping up another record day for gold, silver, the highest. I don't know in how long, but it's been a while. See silver near $27 to the ounce. Gold now near 2,300. All gold contracts outside of this one above 2,300. All silver contracts outside of the May contract all above $27. And going into next year, you got gold contracts above 2,400 already, silver contracts above $28, and Bubba Horowitz telling you, hey, we're going to have $2,500 gold in August. We're going to have silver in the 30s. Be prepared. Don't wait. Take advantage of the pricing. Well, it's still, I know the price is high, but the premiums are really good. That kind of offsets it, doesn't it? It makes it a little more tolerable. $5 liberties. Whatever we have left, 1 through 19, $640, 20 or more, $635. And then the 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles, 1 through 19. 1 through 49, $285. 50 or more, $280. And it's kind of, it's hard when you're talking about a 10th ounce gold eagle. I don't know how much longer they'll be below $300. Most of our competitors are already over the $300 mark on 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles. Take advantage of it while you can. 800-951-0592, and we'll see. It's going to be interesting, the response that we're going to get. We have jobless claims tomorrow. I'm not expecting anything dramatic there at all. And then the government jobs number on Friday, ADP today, 184,000. Really wasn't about the jobs created. It was about wages. No let up. Matter of fact, picking up steam again. And Jason, it just seems like this whole inflation narrative getting better is starting to blow up in the Fed's face.
Transitory. Transitory. We're living that again. At least they're not saying transitory, but they're saying it's getting better. Well, I mean, if you want it to get worse, if that's the goal, then it's getting better. It's doing it. I think this is a purposeful event. This is a purposeful event. So, of course, in their eyes, it's doing exactly what they want. If you look at the CPI year-over-year numbers the last several years, you look at them, very, very controlled up and downward motion of the inflation. So why is it going to flare up and get worse now? It's because they wanted to. There's no other explanation. You can't say that they're dumb, Joe. I can't go there and say that it's dumb money, because these guys are swimming in it. They're the ones that create it. They control the interest rates. If they want something to happen, they will make it happen. And I think they're trying to avoid a depressionary event. And I think I'll have to agree with them in one fashion. I think an inflationary event is probably better than a massive worldwide depression in the short term. In the short term, Joe, that's probably the best thing, and they're always looking short term, I guess, right?
Yeah, and again, I agree with that. They're not dumb. They know. I mean, look at here in Phoenix. Gas prices went up 30 cents overnight. This is kind of what we're starting to see. Copper prices exploding today as well. I mean, but these big jumps. What happened to going up 5 cents or 10 cents? No, how about 30 cents just overnight? This is the type of stuff we're talking about. 800-951-0592. Get yourself protected. Get it while it's still, I guess, somewhat affordable. I guess if we call it that, right? I mean, this is what inflation looks like. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the Half Empty Cup.